All right, we're live. You'll notice this magical background on the stream, which Corey helped me figure out. I think I started talking too soon, so that probably got cut off, but whatever. Welcome to my live stream where we're joined by Corey Kerr, who's going to be working on his animations.
I'm paneling a comic now. It's like
Nice.
Harry Potter, where the pictures move.
I like it. That's cool. Sounds fun.
Wait, I need to be. Hold on. I got to put some filters on this so that we can get have it be real comic book panel.
Oh no! Oh no!
There we go.
I could get in there with filters too, but I got to work on this, which is, so at the top, we should probably let everybody know what this is and stuff. This is our live stream. This is my live stream. And basically, I'm going to be working on 2 stories, book 2 on here. I'm guessing at this point, it looks like no one has showed up, so that's cool. But usually that's how these things go. But basically, I'll be working on 2 stories, book 2. 2 stories, book 1 is a graphic novel about faith and mental illness that you can buy at Amazon right now for a discounted rate, or request from your local comic book shop for them to order it. It's out from Marcosia. And then also the spread you see on the screen is from my upcoming graphic novel, Jacob's Apartment, which is a full color 138-page graphic novel about lost love and broken memories kind of thing. And it's a good book, and you guys should pre-order it. It's coming soon from Graphic Mundi. You can ask any comic shop or bookstore to kind of do that. And then Corey, where can everybody check out your stuff and get your shirt and all that fun stuff if they're just tuning in?
You can go to CoreyKerr.com, CorYkerr.com.
Awesome.
I've got a First Amendment shirt for sale. That's some animations and some comics and some illustrations and stuff you can look at there. And you can also get some links to my YouTube and my Twitter and my Instagram. And I forgot to mention this on the other thing, but I was invited to live stream on Behance. Not as like a featured guy or anything, but just I have the ability to live stream on Behance now. So I might be doing more Behance live streaming.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
I wonder if that'll take off. I don't see why it wouldn't. I don't know.
I mean, it's a little bit more up my alley, since I don't usually talk about interesting things while I'm drawing. I just talk about like what I'm doing.
You don't get in contentious religious debates?
No, I don't. Sometimes I'll look at your stream and I'll go, "Oh, Josh is on. Maybe I'll jump on." And then I hear what you guys are talking about. It's like, "Oh, maybe I'll listen for a few minutes and then not join in."
Yeah, it's gotten a little interesting lately, but I kind of like it. I like the freeform conversation. It's just, I think I had to rein it in like about a stream ago, because I was like, there is a line that I kind of don't want to go past. Most lines I'm okay with kind of blurring, but there are some lines that even I don't want to tread. So
I'm not sure what you're referring to, but yeah, I could see how several of the streams that I've seen in the last week and a half
could
fit into that category.
Yeah, and the last one I just had to draw like a very clear line in the sand and be like, okay, we are not going to talk about these 2 topics. But I don't know. I mean, I do like the fact that it kind of feels like an art studio. That's my favorite part of these streams.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. And then I'm very close to getting like my first YouTube paycheck, which is kind of exciting. So I'm about $5 away from that, which is kind of exciting.
I gotta come up with I went through the whole process of like getting them sending the thing to your address to verify that you exist as a person. And
yeah, it's a pain in the butt. Yeah, the whole system. Yeah.
And then I was like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I think I might clear like $6 every couple months or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, the possibility exists.
Yeah, I think I think it's possible, and for me, it's exciting, even though it's like technically far less than minimum wage. It's still kind of fun to see it bear a little bit of fruit. We'll see. We'll see if I get to that point where there's an actual payday involved. That would be fun. Yeah. So just kind of working on my comic, and really enjoyed Artcasters. It was fun. It was a good one.
Yeah, that was fun. I always like those ones where we just kind of talk about people's questions.
Yeah, it's nice to like have those sort of icebreakers, because it's also like a relief if you're used to like having to interview people and stuff, where like on the fly you're trying to think of interesting questions and keeping the conversation moving, and it's nice to have that kind of relieved where you're just like, okay, we have a bunch of content and it's just going to kind of generate itself. I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
So how are you digging California, man?
Yeah, I love it. Up here, I mean, I'm probably working too much.
Yeah.
Given one of my goals was to kind of relax a little bit, I haven't done that. So I'd like to figure out where to do it. But I mean, it's nice.
It does kind of seem like you guys are hitting some key locations and stuff, though,
Yeah, I mean, not any more or less than we normally do, though. It's just here rather than Idaho. Which isn't bad. I'm not complaining, but it's I think I could work a little bit less and maybe pare down this project a little bit. I think it'd be pretty good.
How's the progress on the animation so far? Are you where you need to be?
So tomorrow would be the end of what we planned on for all the assets, and
wait a minute, Corey. I just want to be clear. I have drawn a very clear line in the sand of stuff we can and cannot. I'm just kidding, because you said assets. I'm sorry.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, the project is kind of an accordion project to where, you could cut minutes out of it and it would still work.
Got it. So it's got some flexibility built into it. That's good for an ambitious project like the one you took on,
Yeah, so I don't know. I kind of have to talk myself into like, just whatever. But I mean, that's rarely how I feel about anything. So
yeah,
I don't know. We'll see. But I mean, we've got a ton done, and I'm about to shift into starting to teach everybody how to animate, and so that'll be a big project.
Nice. You mentioned you're listening to like an audiobook right now. That's pretty good.
I've been burning through a few books, but my brother turned me onto this series called The Black Prism. Have you heard of that?
Wow. No. Sounds cool.
It's interesting. It's like a more digestible sized Brandon Sanderson book.
Okay. Kind of sounds like a Pink Floyd album or something.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it's it's like there's a magic system in it, and it's kind of, medieval high fantasy. But there are people that have different abilities with different colors of light, and so they can draft light. So red drafters can draft red light, and they can light things on fire, and yellow drafters can draft yellow light, and they can create kind of this liquid stuff. And anyway, it's interesting. There's a political system and a couple different types of governments in it and stuff. I'm making it sound super boring, but it's fun. And I think I'm on the third or fourth book. That's
nice.
Mainly what I've been listening to while I've been here. So yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's been good.
That sounds nice, man. I like high fantasy is always fun. And so is it as heavy as Sanderson stuff?
Not in length.
Okay.
Yeah, they're much shorter books. I think each book is probably closer to like 20 to 30 hours rather than like Sanderson's like 70 to 80.
Yeah. I
Per
went
book.
like down a deep well, and then I was like, I have to kind of take a break from Sanderson for about a year, and
I
then I
think I
can probably
listened
dive in again.
to 6 to 9 of his books in a row, and then I have tried to get back into it, and each time I'm like, oh, it's just so much commitment. He's
Whereas
he's he's such a great writer, but at the same time, it's like I don't know if I have the 80 hours, or like every one of his books, it takes about 10 to 15 hours to get into it.
my problem too was like with his books is like I also when I'm listening to an audiobook will sometimes miss like a sentence or two.
Yeah.
And with his, I would find myself like a chapter further and be like, crap, I gotta listen to the last chapter because I like missed a really key point, and now it's building this whole thing on it, and I don't remember what it was. So then it's like I end up having to kind of re-listen. It requires a lot of focus, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
These are, I would say, require as much focus, but they're not as long.
Nice. Have you checked out the Off to Be the Wizard books yet?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I listened to those a year or two ago.
Yeah, those are fun.
A couple of them are kind of dumb, but most of those are really fun.
I mean, to be fair, all of them are really dumb.
Well, I mean, like the dragon one where they make dragons and
Yes.
intentionally build them so that they don't affect anything.
Yes.
Those are, I mean, because they made the dragons not affect anything. Like
Yeah.
they built them so that there are no consequences in that story. That entire book, and then later in a different book, they like make fun of the characters in the book. Make fun of that book. They're like,
Yes.
yeah, we did the dragon thing, but there were like no stakes, and that story was kind of dumb, so it's not worth mentioning.
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
I like those. Those are fun.
I like the reader a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been listening to a biography of J.D. Salinger.
Oh, interesting.
So that's kind of what I'm currently reading, but I've been reading it very slowly because I've been like listening to a ton of podcasts and news and then like YouTube videos and listening to a lot of like streamers, and so
I
it's
can't
kind of
handle the
interesting. You what?
can't handle the news right now.
Yeah, the news is I'm not getting to be I think I've been taking a better balance of it where I'm not like um I'm just kind of keeping up to date, but I'm not like diving super deep because I know my like tendency as somebody who I get worked up about politics and about news. And if I'm going to listen to politics, I'd rather listen to like a hardcore political debate. Like that to me is a lot more fun than like listening to like really hardcore news. Because listening to news is just like, I don't know, there's like a pending doom. And then I know, like in the back of my head, that like that's how the news makes
It's
their
like,
money.
yeah, it's intentionally structured to make you feel terrified.
Yeah, like I was kind of thinking we should implement that on Artcasters. Like we need to we need to introduce something to like or to my live streams. Like I need to create like a pending doom situation just to get people really hooked.
There's not enough fear in our streams.
Mhm. Whereas like you guys, if you don't watch this stream, you know, your art career is going to end or something, you know, like anyhow. But yeah, I've been trying to, yeah, it's a hard thing to try to be, you want to be an informed citizen. Like, I think that's really important. I think it's, you know, sometimes ignorance is more fun, but like can be really detrimental and dangerous. But at the same time, you also don't want to, you know, I think there's a balance to like, you don't want to get so invested in things that you really can't really change,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep.
We've had some pretty interesting discussions on here. But it's like, It is interesting. I don't know. It's interesting to me. I've been thinking about a lot about when I was younger, and like my viewpoints from when I was younger and how they've changed.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that last question on Artcasters is really interesting to me, where it's like, if you were to look at yourself, like the teenage you or whatever, what would you think,
Yeah.
And I was talking about this on stream. I think you probably can relate to this a lot. Like I think it was like a stream or two ago, where I was talking about like I hate doing the like parent stuff because I remember from like before having a kid hearing those conversations and being like, ugh, where somebody would be like, when you're a father, this thing opens up or whatever. But there is like this weird thing that like it is like an alien creature that I was prior to having a kid. It's kind of interesting. It's like I don't feel like I kind of don't think I'd get along with that guy before. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like I think both of us would really dislike each other. Like the me without a kid. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. My thing is like anybody who doesn't have a kid, especially a young person who doesn't have a kid, that likes to give advice about parenting or has really strong opinions about things.
Oh yeah.
It just shows like, like don't it's the same thing as like somebody who has a really strong opinion about comic book publishing,
Yeah.
but they've never published anything and they don't have any insight into like what that's like or anything, but
Yeah.
they're certain that their conspiracy theory is correct. That's kind of the same thing. Just like, yeah, you don't really have the insight that you need to make that call there. But what the heck?
Yeah, it's tough. It is definitely one of those things where it shouldn't be something that people who don't have kids can't comment on, like
Yeah, you can.
yeah, but yeah, I think I was talking about this
It's
before. It's
there is a stage of psychological development that people are in.
yeah.
I just realized I'm not showing what I'm working on. Let me.
Oh, that would be cool if you could. Yeah. I mean,
There's
this
a
is an
stage,
art stream.
stage of psychological development where there we go. Where you think all opinions are equally valid.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, man, well, that's his opinion. It's like, yeah, but that doesn't mean that it's a correct opinion.
Yeah.
You are entitled to your opinion, but a heart surgeon's opinion on heart surgery is more valid than random cab driver's opinion on heart surgery. You know what I mean? Like there is expertise.
Yeah.
And I don't know, a lot of people on the internet are, they're like, well, this is how I feel about it. It's like, great. That doesn't, just because you feel that doesn't make you right.
Yeah.
That just makes it your opinion.
100%. Yeah. It's an interesting thing. Like I've been thinking about like, I don't know. I think there's a level of like idealism sometimes with like youthful thinking that is like dangerous. Like,
yeah,
it's kind of like when I was a kid, I used to read Catcher in the Rye and I'd really relate to Holden Caulfield. And now I still do relate to Holden Caulfield because I've been that kid.
right.
But I also like, I don't know. It's like, there's a level of acceptance. I don't know if that makes sense. It's like, yeah, like everything. So like Holden Caulfield's big hang up is that everything's phony and everybody's fake.
Right.
Right. And there's some truth to that, There's definitely some truth to that. Like people are really fake and phony. And systems are fake and phony. And it's like the first time you realize that money is just paper we all agreed had value. And you're like, whoa, my brain's blown,
Right.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I feel like sometimes people get stuck on just that fact. And they don't realize the reality of like, whether it's arbitrary or not, like that's what it is right now, like.
Yeah, that doesn't make it, that idea itself doesn't mean that there's nothing to it.
Exactly. Like, yeah, like, okay, so like working is kind of stupid. in general. I mean, the concept of like showing up somewhere, working for someone, like for a piece of paper that allows you to get food. However, if you want to eat, it's not really that ridiculous. Like it, I mean, it might be ridiculous, but you kind of have to play the game.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. It's just funny. I don't know. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Yeah. Anyhow.
Yeah. I'm trying to do a UPA style here without the whole point of that is for it to not take that long and to have some real gesture to it, and I'm spending too much time. Ironically.
A good cheat to like the offset line is to do the line inset and then just literally shift it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I normally do it, but I'm trying to avoid that right now for some reason.
I do like the looseness of some of these panels, though. Like, I feel like some of the styles you've been coming up with are really fun.
Yeah, it's been interesting. It's been interesting to do kind of more painterly stuff with some stuff that I've been kind of playing with.
Yeah.
And that's been kind of fun. Just to play with brushes and Photoshop.
Oh my goodness, where did I put my brush? There it is. Okay. I think I was just reading the Elephant and Piggy books to my kid by Mo Willems.
Yeah.
And like had this brief moment of like questioning my existence. Because he has such a like brilliantly simple style.
Yeah.
That I was just like, why do I labor? Like
oftentimes when you read his stuff, you're like, it's so freaking good.
Yeah.
And you know, I just I'm literally breaking my back doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like it's
not like what he's doing is easy. It's just
not mentally, but physically it's got to be way easier than, you know.
Yeah.
So it's not, somebody might listen to this and think that we're discounting the work. It's incredibly brilliant work.
Yeah, and his sense of design, like, I mean, he's easily one of the best kids book artists out there. And it's also like, it kind of has that thing that Corey and I always talk about, digging, like total authenticity. It's his style, it's his voice. You know, you wouldn't mistake it. It would be hard to not like spot like a Mo Willems book and be like, oh, that's Mo Willems. Like you wouldn't confuse him with like a different artist, you know.
He did a potty training book, and I'm not a huge fan of that one. It doesn't feel like him.
Oh, I don't know if I've seen that one.
Yeah, it's okay.
Was it one of the pigeon books or
no?
Just
a potty training book with kids that are learning to potty train, and it's got some rhymes in it that are. I mean, you know, my toddler likes it, but it's like it doesn't feel like him.
Yeah.
As much as a lot of his other books, which is fun.
Okay. I like. There's one that my son likes a lot called Edwina the Dinosaur, that didn't exist or something. And like the whole premise is this little kid who's like a skeptic, and there's a dinosaur in the town that likes to like bake cookies for all the kids and like bring them to his classroom. But this kid is like a skeptic, and he starts reading about dinosaurs, and he realizes that like dinosaurs don't exist, like they're extinct.
Yeah.
So he starts debating people, and they're like, but Edwina's a dinosaur. She's like right here, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like this whole premise where like the skeptic just like, he has to prove that like Edwina doesn't exist. And then the one person who will hear him out and like debate with him is Edwina.
That's funny.
It's great. It's really good. Yeah, I don't know. That guy hit some magic.
Yeah, he is phenomenal. I mean, his pigeon books are so good.
Yeah, it's great. It's interesting when you can see like a writer or like an artist just like hit that like whatever it is, like that little genius thing. And it's like that moment where they get a money printing machine.
Right. Well, and I mean, to have a character design that is totally unique, but that kids can easily draw,
Yeah.
that is rare.
Oh yeah, and like again, his aesthetic is so appealing. And then also it helps that he has a really good sense of color and design.
Right.
Yeah, I love those books, but yeah, it's like that and Dave Pilkey make me like want to do something really loose and simple.
I have often considered just like, what if I just, you know, did like a scholastic style comic, and just, but then I think I'm not a strong writer. So like some of those, you see the scholastic stuff or the other types of things that are kind of that YA, kind of memoir thing or whatever. They're really good, Regina Telgemeier and Dog Boy and whatever. And it's like you could draw that fast, but also like I'm just not that good of a writer. And like a lot of what the kids are responding to is like really authentic writing.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, yeah. But it is tempting.
Yeah, I think I came up with a concept for one because I was thinking about like a YA book, and I was like, I would do one if I ever thought of something,
Right.
if I ever felt compelled to do it.
Yeah.
And I think I have it. So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, so like I'm probably gonna do something about bands.
Oh yeah, that would fit. There's always kids starting bands.
Yeah, like I think just the dynamics of a rock band when you're like a junior high school kid, like is definitely like there's definitely some material there.
Uh-huh.
And then of course you'd complicate it, so it's not about the band. It's about something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the ones that my daughter reads, I'm like, that's an interesting premise. Like, there's one that, you know, called Squint, and this
Uh-huh.
kid just wakes up one day and realizes that he can shoot lasers out of his eyes.
Nice.
I think that's it. But anyway, I can't remember exactly what the premise was. But I was like, oh, that's not like it's uniquely done, but it's not like, Cyclops couldn't do that before. You know, it's kind of interesting just to see how they're doing that.
Yeah, I think it was really cool to have Yehudi on too. I thought like just the idea of doing a comic about like being an overweight kid
Mm-hmm.
and like trying to do sports is just like such a cool concept, and also trying to get like a book that fits that Telgemeier market, but like for boys,
Yeah,
because my son, like, he's really into like Dogman and stuff, but there's not like a lot of like heartfelt, you know, autobio stories for him.
right.
Whereas like if you're a little girl right now, it's like there's a million like Babysitters Club type books,
Well,
you
those
know.
comics are great too.
Oh yeah, well I mean that's what put Telgemeier on the map.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And Scarlett loves the Babysitters Club comics.
yeah, so like it's a cool idea. I think what's happening with Yehudi, where they're like doing that for boys.
Uh-huh.
It's
Yeah,
it's smart, and like as a parent, it's like I of course dig that, because it's like those are great things to have for kids.
yeah,
And then you really appreciate a well-written kids book because you have, it's better if it's well written. Yeah,
yeah,
kids need to read. So it's
yeah,
kind of a relief when you find stuff that's so well done. Like you become a fan too. So it's like Pilkey, for instance. I really like Dogman. Like I enjoy those comics,
right.
and it's because I get to experience them with my kid, but also because they're really good. Like they're very funny. They're a
Mhm.
little like racy, but they're like the right kind of racy. Like I know he's not gonna like cross a line that's like, oh man, that's offensive.
Right,
But he's crossing lines that like kids know are okay to cross, but like a lot of adults wouldn't be okay with it.
right.
Like fart jokes, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch that. Um, you know, that little bit of rebellion, but like
Yeah.
safe. Yeah.
Yeah, the safe rebellion where they know it's kind of wrong, but it's not wrong, you know? I don't
Yeah.
know. I think it's good to have things that feed that a little bit, you know? You don't want to exploit it, but you know, it's like the book with no pictures is good for that, right? Where it's like half the bit is you're making an adult like read stupid words.
Right.
um, kids like that, you know. They like being tricksters.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe after Not Death but Love and this book, maybe that's what I'll do. But I would want to really come up with like a very, I don't know, maybe a different style, you know,
Yeah.
for it. Maybe more of an open line style would be good for it, you know. Kind of like if I did a style similar to like what I did for Jacobs here, you know, where
Yeah.
it's like very simple, open,
Uh-huh.
but with you know, like more young adult kid oriented stuff, you know.
Right.
So how how much more do you think you have like for building the assets before you start getting into animation?
Well, my schedule, we're done this week on assets.
Nice.
So I can show you really fast. Let's see.
Do you guys have the raw footage too, or is that going to be shot later?
That'll be shot once the snow melts. So this is where we are.
Okay, so that stuff's going to be shot in Idaho.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so I got to do this motorcycle scene, or somebody has to. So I got almost all of those. I got to do this swing set, and there's 4 of those left. I really liked how this turned out. This kind of painting that I did. I don't normally paint, but that was kind of a fun paint job there. I like
That's
that one.
awesome.
So that one
Yeah,
turned
I
out.
saw that one on Instagram. Which, by the way, you guys should all be following Corey Kerr on Instagram.
This one's another. I did a kind of like a charcoal, like colored charcoal. That was a fun one. Um, and I have this giant spider kind of roaming through things. Let's see. This one was a fun one. This one took me way too long. I looked up the background artist of Disenchanted.
Hmm.
Her last name is Holly Williams. She is phenomenal.
Yeah,
And I
that
did,
is really some great background art on that show.
yeah, it really is. She is so good. And so I kind of just aped her style for this. She seems to use kind of like a darkened pencil line so that it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't conflict with like the heavy vector line of the characters, but it still has line work because a lot of cartoon backgrounds are just painted with outline.
Yeah,
But I liked that there was a sense of line. I had fun doing this one. I might enjoy doing another one like this. I've got a time lapse of this on Instagram if anybody wants to watch that. So
that's
then
cool.
I've got that. So that one's pretty much done. I got to update that. Most of these ones are done. I've got to do the characters on this one.
So we have some viewers that are just hopping on, and I just wanted to let everybody know. So we're doing a live stream, and Corey is reviewing basically some assets from an animation that he's working on. It's going to be a kind of feature film almost. Um, and so,
It's not a feature film. It's going to be a short.
well, it's going to be a short, but it's going to be a cool short that's like mixing live action and animation, and he's kind of doing that on his sabbatical, and so he's reviewing and showing like the stuff that they've built so far, just catching people up who might be watching. Yeah.
This one is Caden, is a guy that I'm working with, and he is so good. Like he did this I mean, this looks like movie level like concept art. I thought it was really nice sense of just gesture in the colors.
It's awesome.
And Emily Gunnell, Guminelli, I sketched this. I sketched this out, and she painted it, and it turned out really well. Kind of a Seuss parody.
Nice. She's good for that too. She has such a rich, saturated sense of color.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I still have to do this one. I might do this one tonight if I can get to it. This is the one that'll overlay over the Seuss one, where I just have
Nice.
some Salvador Dali surrealist animals.
Nice.
Yeah, so I think we're getting close. I've got to do some
Could do
zombies.
that, but like color them better than Dolly. My beef with Salvador Dali, right?
I'm sure I've heard it. I don't remember it though.
I just kind of don't like his color.
Yeah.
I kind of think it sort of sucks the life out of the paintings.
Oh, that's funny.
So I see the brilliance of what he was doing, but it's like he's definitely not one of my favorite painters. Because I don't like that he sort of everything that's dark is just mixing black. Everything that's light is mixing white. It's just kind of a boring way to paint to me.
Right.
Which is funny because here I am cross-hatching in black and white. So, take that with a grain of salt. I'm making comic books here.
It is what it is. So I'm going to come in and finish these houses.
That's really cool, Corey. Thanks for sharing that stuff. I think I've seen most of that on your Instagram, which everybody should be following.
Yeah, I'm not sharing all of it. So I feel like everybody's, because I was talking to Gary the other day, and he's like, "Hey, I love that thing that you did," and I was like, "Man, that was like 6 pieces ago."
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's hard when you're in the middle of something where you're flying, and people that really care about your work are following it, but they're like behind where you are. I'm like,
yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, it's fun. I'm able to do a lot of fun stuff with it. So.
Dude.
I've got my Stream Deck like totally dialed in. I got a bigger one, and it's got all of the programmed buttons. I'm almost like faster doing this than I am the keyboard now.
Nice.
Not almost, I actually am, and so that's kind of fun.
That's cool. I feel like I don't know. I had heard something like they actually have like gatos, or whatever, those little deck things at like Target. Like they have like a 4-button one for like $60 or something.
Yeah, there's little ones. There's little 4-button ones that are kind of fun.
I did not know this, but I feel like I'm pretty basic in what I need for streaming.
Mine's not even for streaming. I'm using it for like Photoshop actions and stuff.
Yeah. So is it quicker because it's the pad, or like do you feel like if you set actions it would be equally quick?
Well,
Photoshop.
So I'll set actions, but then it also does keystrokes, so I can mix actions with keystrokes. So like I have 2 buttons in here where instead of me pressing the keyboard 3 times to increase the size of my brush or decrease the size of my brush, I've got 2 buttons where it taps it 3 times. So I press it once and it increases 3 taps, or I press it once and it decreases 3 taps. Or I'll be drawing on a layer and realize that I want it separated on a separate layer. So I have another button that just I'll make a selection, then I'll hit this button and it'll cut, create a new layer, move that layer underneath, paste, and then deselect, all with 1 button push.
Got it. But I guess what I'm trying to figure out is how is that different from just setting an action?
Because it has an image on it. So like there's a pair of scissors, or there's a brush with a minus button. And
got it. That's cool. So you can kind of like.
So yeah, because I don't have to go in and say, what did I do? Shift F12 for that action?
Okay, now I see the utility of that. Okay.
Yeah, so it's just faster because it's very visual.
Yeah. And you can just do that with like endless buttons, right?
Yeah, so I have, and the other thing is that's really nice is it's USB, so it's smart. So when I jump over to, I can show you. When I jump over to Photoshop, it gives me my Photoshop set of actions and buttons. But when I jump over to Illustrator, it automatically knows Illustrator is active, and so it jumps to Illustrator.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'll put this on the screen. So I've got like going like this, and it's got all these buttons. And here's that cut one, right? So it's just scissors, and it just goes, control or Command X, Shift Command V, and then
Got it.
I put that on, whatever.
So it's basically doing an action, but it's linked to an icon, which makes it easier to remember the actions.
Right, because then I can
That's
jump over to like After Effects,
yeah.
and I've got like loop out, ping pong. So these are like, type out this expression,
Yeah.
or create a time remap or whatever, and I can also launch programs from it. So if I go here, like I basically have like a home base where I can launch, Chrome or Discord or Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects, Character Animator, Premiere, OBS. I can control my media as well through here. So I've got like rewind, fast forward, pause. Anyway, it's pretty slick. I like it.
I love it.
It's not anything that you can't do on the keyboard. It's just faster and visual.
All right. Corey, I have a question.
Okay.
What is a viewpoint that, like, if somebody expresses it, it is extremely frustrating for you to even get into explaining, like, or discussing?
What do you mean?
So, like, for me, like, I have trouble. There are certain thoughts that I have trouble talking to people about that have them because I have to go backwards so far.
Backwards in your
um,
thinking or what?
yeah, backwards in logic. Like I have to kind of break down my brain
Okay.
so basically that it's like an extremely frustrating experience. And I have this with adults, but not often, just sometimes. And it made me wonder if you have that sometimes, or because you seem like a very patient person. Um, and I just wonder if like there's some things that I guess the best explanation I could think of is like if I'm talking to somebody and they think the Earth is flat,
Okay.
that kind of feeling where it's like, do I even engage in this conversation? Kind of moment where you're like, this is going to be a time suck? I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know. That was an example, but I'm
Oh
trying to
man.
think of something,
Yeah. Political extremes like
Yeah.
anarcho-libertarians or uh, like pure socialists or pure capitalists. I find it laborious to try to explain nuance to somebody who refuses to see a nuanced world.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that might be it. It might be like when I'm trying to think because it's like not just I don't want to isolate it to politics too.
Yeah.
I think it's just it's hard to have a discussion with someone who only thinks in like black and white.
Right.
Um, a good example would be like somebody who says it is wrong to steal, and you're like, okay, I agree with you. It is wrong to steal.
Right.
If your family is starving, and
Yeah.
like you get into the kind of more nuanced territory, but the person just kind of keeps drawing the hard line of nope, it is wrong to steal, and you're like, okay, but
You're talking about Jean Valjean, the whoever the cop is in that in Les Mis.
yes, I'm talking about rigid thinking where it's like failing to see nuance. And I'm not saying like we should walk around justifying stealing, but I'm just saying like to be able to see the nuance in a scenario where like sometimes a hard and fast rule has like some like complexity, you know?
Yeah.
That's a frustrating conversation for me. If somebody's not willing to go down that thought train, I guess.
For me, anytime people are unwilling to, like, if they intentionally are misunderstanding, or if it feels like I'm explaining the same thing like 4 or 5 times, I'm just like, oh, this isn't even worth it. Like, it's like somebody who's like trying to use verbal tricks to trip you up rather than understand your point of view.
Yeah.
I'm just like, no, this isn't even a thing.
Yeah, that's tough. Like that's, you know, bad faith is very tough, right? Where it's like, yeah, if someone's engaging in bad faith, then it's like it's hard to even, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyhow, I just was thinking about that. I don't know why, but I just
I think you enjoy debating a lot more than I do. Like, I kind
I
of hate it.
do. I like mental. I think like I'm not a very like physically violent person.
Uh-huh.
But I like getting in the ring mentally sometimes. Like I don't even feel like I'm like a skilled practitioner of getting in the mental ring. I just there's a part of me that like kind of enjoys it. I don't know if that's a wrong part of me or if it's just how I'm designed. I don't know.
See, for me, if it's like I'd like to hear somebody out, and then I'd like to have them hear me out, and then that's it. I don't want to like have to defend or try to convince, or whatever. It's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, if you want to know what I think, I'll tell you. But like, I don't enjoy the step beyond that where, people start trying to poke holes and
Yeah.
whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, whatever. I mean, and it's been useful. I don't
Yeah.
avoid it because I have, changed my opinion on things and learned things. And so I do think there's some use to it, but for the most part, it's just not something I like at all.
Yeah, I understand that. And I actually think that what you're talking about is way more effective for changing minds, like the approach you're talking about. Because I don't think you often are going to change minds by arguing someone into it.
Right.
That's rarely an effective form of communication. I think the utility I find in sort of poking holes in stuff and kind of trying to like test my mettle, like of my own thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
it's actually better for changing my mind. Like for me, it's like an exercise in like figuring out what I believe and also like ironing out what I believe and sort of figuring that out. So
Yeah.
that's where I enjoy the kind of the tussle because it's like it's the way that it's like through conflict, it's almost like testing my idea with fire, and then as it comes out, it's either going to come out as like metal, like as a fully forged like sword, or it's going to come out like just nonsense, you know?
Right.
Um, and so I do enjoy that process, um, but I also kind of don't enjoy that process. And I do like being able to clear. Actually, what you're describing, Corey, I think is a rare thing because there's a lot of people who can't do that. They can't actually articulate what they think.
Yeah.
But I was praising you on a stream a while ago, and I think that your approach to just sort of discussing issues and talking about like nuanced complexity and stuff is very admirable and requires a lot of patience that I don't know if I have. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that's. I don't know. It's interesting.
Whereas like I often am ready to just like dive into a verbal fist fight, you know, like,
Yeah.
but it's weird because I don't enjoy just like name calling sessions or something like that. Wouldn't be fun,
Right.
you know. But,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. For me, it's just like, I don't know. There's so much of my life that is defending ideas and whatever that when I
yeah,
have to do that, it's kind of just a relaxing thing.
Yeah.
I kind of enjoy the relaxation of that.
Yeah, I understand that.
Cut that corner down.
So I guess my point is I think that your approach is probably a lot healthier.
It works for me. I don't know if it's better or worse or whatever, but
mine's weird. It's gotten me into trouble, but it's led me to a lot of benefits as well. So it's like this weird blessing and curse kind of thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
If I cut into that. Yeah, there we go. So, negative space.
But I also think some of that stems from I tend to be a person who, if I have a thought come into my head, it's very hard for me not to have it come out of my mouth. And I've worked on that, and I've of course like improved that skill. Because like if you're once you start working in management or leadership, you have to have that skill. Like you have to improve that skill. You can't just kind of rattle off the first thing that comes to your mind. But that's something I had to learn, like, and I have to work very hard at because I tend to think out loud, which is not always great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But I guess it has benefits for like most people who know me because rarely is a friend of mine going to be confused if they offended me or something, you know?
Yeah.
Because they'll know. Like the second they say something, I'll be like, oh, well, that's offensive. You know, like I just kind of dive into it. So it does make for like a very open book sort of scenario. So I guess that might be nice. That might be the benefit.
Yeah.
But it's definitely got a lot of obvious negatives that don't take a lot to kind of realize, you know.
Yeah. Whereas I would rather after the fact go in and decide whether that's something that I want to approach. You know?
Yeah.
Was that like, yeah, that hurt my feelings or I was offended or whatever, but is that something that's worth parsing with this person or not?
Yeah. Yeah. That's good to measure the cost, you know. I don't know why for me and I have to admit there's like a strange level of enjoyment that I get, but I think it's kind of like I do think there's just different personalities, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't know, because I also again like that's made me be very bold in speaking up to people that most people wouldn't speak up to, which has led to benefits and then negatives, you know. So it's like it's a weird like semi superpower, but not really. So I'm gonna disappear for like 2 seconds. I'm still getting work done. Are you hanging in there?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I am loving the Mr. Magoo style there. It's totally reading as cartoon modern.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and I really love the dude's hat, and I'm really digging the colors too.
Yeah, I stole all the colors from. I have a bunch of my grandpa's Mechanics Illustrated magazines.
Yeah.
In like a box, and I spent a couple hours one day scanning all of the illustrations and lifting all the color palettes from them.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are like, I have this whole folder over here. These are all Mechanics Illustrated vintage, like 1930s, 1940s color palettes.
Dude, those are some beautiful color palettes too.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they're all like, you know, legit. So yeah, it's kind of fun. It's amazing what you guys did back then. Yeah, I'll let you go.
Oh yeah. Okay, goodness, hang on a second. Sorry. I also have another really interesting thing. Not a debate thing, just like on the lines of our conversation. You know. I'll be right back. Okay. Hang on.
Okay, so if we got yellow, orange, if I stay August and go with a red. But there's a lot of non-colors. I'm gonna do like a green, I think, for this guy, but not the. Let's see, more vibrant green. Could just make him the hat color. Look at that. You do this. Okay.
Philip in the chats, did you already address it?
No, what's he saying?
Oh, he was saying he likes the colors being offset from the line work.
Oh, thanks, man.
I was going to actually throw out there, if anybody's familiar with my streams and stuff, like we put this little background because to me, I think it's better to get like the wide angle when we're drawing. But let me know what you guys think too. Like whether you
the one big downside to that is that the work is really small.
Yeah.
Because it's taking up, like 2/3 of the available space, or less than that, I guess.
I guess we could go back to this and do a thin stack.
Yeah, let us know which one you guys like better.
So I'm going to go back to this, but I'll wait for your guys' opinions. And if you're watching this after the fact, just let me know in the comments section. And I'll adjust future streams or even this stream accordingly, because that's one I have no idea on. Okay, so this is an interesting thing that has to do with frustration of talking to people sometimes. You're a communications guy, so it's like fun to talk to you about this stuff because you're kind of an expert on it.
Yeah.
Philip was asking, what do we use to live stream? So we use a mixture of OBS and then StreamYard. So that's kind of Stream Deck, right?
StreamYard.
Oh, StreamYard. I just was thinking of the duck, but
Stream Deck is the button thing I was talking about. What the crap is going on there?
Yeah. And so Corey very kindly kind of showed me a few of the ropes on OBS. There's some things I need to still figure out about OBS, like Corey, like at some point I'm going to have to figure out, like let's say I wanted to watch a video or stream me watching a stream or listening to like a podcast or something.
Yeah.
Not that I'm going to do that right now, but it's like I want to know exactly, like, would that conflict with the audio settings on I'm not
as good at audio on OBS. The audio kind of confuses me a little bit, and it's different on a Mac too, because the system audio doesn't flow through OBS the same way it does on a PC.
Okay, I'm gonna have to mess with that. Maybe I'll do an experimental stream or something at some point.
Yeah.
Because I thought it might be kind of nice, like for some streams where, like, there's days where I don't necessarily want to like do a ton of talking. I just kind of want to work. Right. And it might be fun to like listen to some of the things I listen to and then comment on it, Although I'm sure that's pressing that monetization questionable area, but might be fun to kind of see.
It does depend on what the content is, but it's also commentary. But if it's like audio books or whatever, you just take fair use into, there's the 4 pillars of fair use. You make sure that you're 2 to 3 of those pretty solidly, and you'll be okay. But,
yeah, I was thinking more just like maybe doing that with other YouTube videos, or something. But
I think that's a thing that people do. So I don't think that's too big of a deal.
Yeah, I think it's possible. So it's something I'm considering. Okay, so question on the communication front. I like the verbal crossing of swords sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with if you're talking to someone and they're making a worse case for what they believe than you would be able to make for what they believe?
What do you mean? Give me an example.
Like, the devil's advocate position better than they do. Like, the better argument. Like, because this happens to me a lot, and I'm not bragging or anything. It's just like, I think with people who are a little skeptical, and I don't think I'm unique in this, and especially people who kind of do enjoy the sort of idea of debate and the idea of like kind of conflicting ideas.
Uh,
Most people who are built like that like think about other viewpoints a lot. Like I think of whenever I'm coming up with a viewpoint, especially on morals or politics or philosophy, these are things I deeply think about, and I think about what other people think about them. I don't just tend to like myopically think about them. It's part of why I like talking to other people about these opposing ideas, right?
uh,
So, like the case you were bringing up about like the libertarian thing, it's like I've talked to so many libertarians where I could argue libertarianism better than they can.
yeah,
And it bums me out because they're at like base level on what they're bringing up. And I'm like, you could bring up this, it's way better. Like,
yeah,
you know, there's some things that are a little more bulletproof that they're not bringing up. They're bringing up all the soft stuff. And it's like, get to the hard stuff. So like I find that for me to have the patience to sit with somebody for them to get to like a good argument is frustrating too. Is that demeaning or that sounds pretentious, huh?
uh, not. I mean, yeah, a little bit, but I mean, it's also just like you might just be talking to the wrong person. It
Yeah.
depends. It depends on what you want. You
Yeah.
know, like Philip says, I tried StreamYard, but it was giving me issues. What issues? I'm kind of curious. I
Yeah.
want
And
to,
then Philip, what are you trying to stream? Is it like an art stream or?
yeah, I want to start streaming again, but likely just keep using Streamlabs. Is Streamlabs OBS? That feels familiar. I feel like I've heard that one. I know OBS has. There's like a version of OBS that's different or something. But yeah, StreamYard is okay, but we both use virtual camera from OBS because StreamYard doesn't do everything that we want it to do.
Yeah.
And so we kind of, there's a bit of a workaround.
I like one of the things, this is probably like the designer and cartoonist in me. I tend to like programs with limits. And so I think one of the things that would be tough for me with something like just purely doing it from OBS is like, if I were going to do that, I'd have to do kind of what Corey was doing back when we were doing the 48-hour art check, where he built his own kind of structure and limit. And, you know, because a framework that's too open, the complexity of it can actually be a hindrance. And so for me, the thing I really like about this is it's very simple, like the way we have it set up.
Yeah.
Where it's like we're having OBS do a little bit of the complicated work where it's doing multicam. It frees you up for stuff you can share on the screen. But
But there's a ton more that we could do that we're not even touching.
yeah, like so the advantage if we were both streaming and then capturing it on OBS would be like the issue that I'm having with like trying to show full artwork would be less. Because if somebody was just their head was on camera, I could crop their head a little bit. You can crop in on stuff and kind of have different sizes and stuff. So it's a lot more open.
Yeah.
I think like more serious streamers, you know, tend to use just straight up OBS.
Right.
And then I think they do like some kind of capture with like the live chats so that they're kind of on the screen as you go, which always freaks me out because I'm like, what if somebody puts something really racy in there, you know?
Well, we used to do that when we were doing this without StreamYard. I put the comment section up.
Yeah, yeah. But it also seemed like a bit more of a headache for you too at the time.
Way
You know?
more work. Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, this is where like it's kind of like why I have a lot more options at the gym for working out. But for me, it's important for me to have something that's very simple and it's there all the time for me to be able to consistently make sure I'm working out. Like if I have more complexity in what I have to do, I'm actually making the odds of me doing it a lot slimmer, you know?
Yeah. That makes sense. So we get rid of this background element completely.
He said it's very similar to OBS, and they even used to be called Streamlabs OBS, but had to change their name for legal reasons. Oh, okay, so they aren't like the same company. But as for StreamYard, a little hard to explain, but I think I just need to spend more time with it. Yeah, and it can be kind of a pain, especially if you're not paying for it, because it has like that duck.
Right. And
Um,
the intentionally bad logo.
I also don't personally like, this is the one thing I would say that I'm really annoyed with them is that they're charging more for the higher resolution version. That
Yeah.
seems a little shady to me.
Yeah, I mean they've got to charge for something, but they made some weird choices. I mean, honestly, when our we got on pretty early, and I think Scott uh, helped quite a bit. But
Yeah.
uh, I wonder if we'll stick with them after we run out of like all the affiliate stuff that happened at the beginning.
Yeah, I agree. I will say, if you guys do use it, I think just mention us, right? Is that how it
No,
works?
there's like a link that we stopped promoting.
Okay. We should probably start sharing that again, just to
Yeah,
keep that gravy train rolling.
all the incredible income we made off of them.
The incredible income they made off of it, but still, that's.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, we got an extra year of streaming out of it, so that's,
Yeah.
that's not bad at all. And I do like the product. I don't feel like I'm shilling for something that isn't good. It is a simple way to
Yeah.
stream for sure.
Yeah, and
And,
I really like the chat element of it a lot.
and it's fairly bulletproof. Like we haven't had too many guests that have really had a problem. You just send them a link and then they're good to go.
Yeah, that is nice because they don't even need to download anything or have anything extra. Um, I think the biggest complication is if they're doing it on an iPad, they have to make sure they actually open it in Safari, or whatever. But I think that's the only hiccup
Right.
that's kind of come up. Yeah, pretty nice thing. So anyhow, how do you deal with like? I guess maybe that's just not frustrating to you. I don't know. For me, that's really frustrating. If I'm talking to somebody
I
and they
think
know the case for what they're talking about less than you do.
I think I think you might be looking at a situation where you are hoping to have an incredibly intellectual discussion
Yes.
rather than uh, meet this person as a person.
Yes.
You're looking for a foil
Yeah,
rather
I'm
than
looking for stimulation. Yes.
rather than a conversation with the person.
Yeah, which is true.
And so yeah, I would just say, and not to be harsh, but you're probably objectifying that person and frustrated that they're not matching up to the object that you want them to be rather than they're just a person.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think like a more I agree with you. I think a like maybe more charitable version would be
Yeah,
I'm
and I mean,
I'm I'm hoping like here's the thing. I kind of like thinking that everyone's on a similar rational playing field.
right.
And I tend to start from that base level where I assume people are kind of running on the same cylinders.
Uh,
And that's a bad assumption to start with.
yeah, and if I
But
were to
so
say,
part of my frustration or disappointment might just be that I wish they were. I just feel bad.
a lot of things,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think the main thing with that is,
But you're right. Like starting from the base level of kind of seeing them as an individual and valuable, and also recognizing my own fallibility.
yeah,
Would be a good place to start. Kind of like your friend who we had on, where he was saying
right,
like you start these interactions with empathy, and it goes a long way.
yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking is, you've got. I was using objectification specifically in the kind of anatomy of peace use with I forget the name of the group that writes those books. It'll come to me anyway. it's not most of the time. Most of the time, when when somebody says that you're objectifying, it's usually in a sexual nature.
Yeah.
If you're trying to use them as an object to get physical pleasure. But in the way that the Anatomy of Peace or leadership and self-deception or those books, they're
Yeah.
talking about objectification is a lack of empathy. And so that object could be something that you could get physical pleasure from, or it could
Yeah.
also be, something that you're using, as a foil, or somebody that you're trying to achieve something
Yes.
through or by or around. They could be an obstacle or a stepping stone or, something like that, but you're not viewing them as you view yourself.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that it's not a stretch to say that's our natural default setting as human beings, is
Yeah.
to see everyone as an object that, we relate to people by the way that they interact with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is my wife, this is my boss, this is my da da da.
Yeah.
Our relation to them is how they interact and affect and relate to us. And so that extra mental step of saying, am I frustrated because this person is frustrating, or am I frustrated because I forgot to take the extra mental step of doing some empathetic work and approaching this person as a person, rather than they're not being what I want them to be.
Yeah. No,
I
100%.
decided this conversation was going to be different than it is, and the fact that it's happening differently is frustrating.
Yeah, agreed.
So if I were to put my professional communication hat on, that's how I'd approach it. But.
True.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess like from a mental sparring level, like if you're especially on a debate or something, right? You kind of like when it's like if you get in a boxing ring with somebody, right?
Right.
You kind of hope they can box.
Well, yeah, and that's
and if you get really easy shots and you're just like, really? Like, or if they're just kind of boxed, like they're just flailing and punching something that's not even there, it's like, it can be a little frustrating because you're like, this is supposed to be a match, right?
Well, a little frustrating to somewhat dangerous too.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember
where it's like you almost at that point are more concerned about like don't injure yourself,
Right. So like when I see people playing volleyball,
yeah,
I will watch everyone before I get on the court. Before I get on the court, I will decide whether I'm going to leave the ground or not, because I will see, oh, that person is jumping forward towards the net rather than vertical, so they don't know what they're doing. Or I'll see people lace their fingers together like this to pass.
Yeah.
And I will know that if I leave the ground, I have a pretty high chance of like breaking an ankle or blowing a knee out.
Yeah.
Because I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so it's frustrating because I would like a good volleyball game.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to get is I'm going to pass and set a lot because I'm not going to jump.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's kind of the same thing. Like you said, the boxing thing. And I started thinking of like football practice, like our coach would say what percentage of effort we were putting in.
Yeah.
And his reason for doing that was, if somebody's going 100% and somebody else is going 50%, somebody's going to get hurt. And it's not necessarily one or the other, but you have to be on the same level.
Yeah.
Or dial it back so that you're on the same level, you know? And so when we do practice at the beginning of the week, he'd be like, all right, we're doing 50%, and it's still useful, but everybody has that expectation of how hard you're hitting and how fast you're running.
Yeah.
And when we go 100%, everybody has that expectation. And so nobody's like caught off guard, and blows out a knee or something.
No, that's totally true. I like that. And also, I mean, I should also realize, and this is something, in general, it's like, I enjoy a little bit of conflict, I think. And this is something I've learned to enjoy too, because you kind of have to lean into conflict. Like that's part of leadership too.
Yeah.
So, our instinct is like, ooh, conflict, I got to avoid this or whatever. And there is a value to kind of leaning into conflict, but I do need to get better at measuring it. I think people tend to have like either be too quick to jump in or too slow to hop in. And I think I'm definitely like more the like hop in and then kind of see where we're at kind of guy, which again can have its advantages, but you're right, like kind of matching people where they're at rather than sort of coming in with expectations. I like that idea. Yeah, that's definitely somewhere I need to grow. I've been thinking about that too with what you were talking about is something I recently read an article by a friend of mine on that actually. And he was talking about like how he thinks that even the objectification of women comes from a standpoint of sort of possession, like as opposed to appreciation.
Yeah.
So like where you can't just look at like a beautiful person and say like that's cool that there's a beautiful person, like that's cool that like God made like beautiful people.
Right.
Instead it's like well that's that I need that beautiful thing, or instead of like a human being displaying the beauty that God created, it's like you're looking at it as like an object or for utility rather than for
utility or challenge or conquer or possession,
mm-hmm.
or possession for the sake of comparison. Like
mm-hmm.
I've never done this, but I know people that have done this where they will be embarrassed with somebody that they're sleeping with, but they're still sleeping with them, but they don't want anybody to know. And that is not a healthy way to deal with people. And they're doing that because they're worried about how they're perceived rather than how they are interacting with that person.
Yeah. And also they're viewing that person as like a utility as opposed
right,
to,
exactly, yeah.
And I think that's the key is like, I think that even leads to like people being overly censorious too of things, because it's like, if that is an object for your, observation or something like that, then you're obviously going to be like very possessive of like what can be shown, or like, I don't know. I just think it leads to all sorts of trouble when you stop viewing people as people. And I think we all kind of do objectify a little bit, and it's something to be aware of. And actually it's interesting because I think I probably do that verbally a lot, where I come in with an expectation, and whereas I could be meeting people, where I'm there. And I also have like a bit of a conflict. Again, I have a conflict personality sometimes, so it's interesting. I don't know.
Well, I think everybody approaches. There we go. I thought that was alphabetical. I think everybody approaches people as an object naturally. So you do want to, approach people. You need to do the mental and emotional work to get out of that. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, the objectification of women or men or any number of people is often very much, a problem.
Yeah, and it's tough because we are in a society that like sort of judges people based on their utility. And so it's hard not to almost like adopt the utilitarian framework that pretty much our society is viewing things from.
Yeah.
Rather than kind of starting from like these are all people of value who are made in the image of God kind of scenario,
Right.
It's interesting. I don't know.
Which is hard, I think, because if everybody was a good faith actor,
yes,
then anyone from any belief system, it would be really easy to empathize with them.
Yes, but not everyone's in good faith.
Right, but I don't want to say any belief system. Like, I think it would be really difficult to make like an empathetic case for Nazis or genocide, people that are promoting the oppression of others. But beyond like moral extremes, any good faith person, you can empathize with their position.
Yeah,
there's so many people that are intentionally deceptive or unintentionally, manipulative or
Yeah.
weirdly competitive in relationships or conversations.
Yeah.
That makes it hard.
Yeah, I can understand that. You know what's funny? I've noticed this because I've watched some debates where like supremacists go on and they make their case or whatever, and it's pretty terrible and usually poorly argued.
Uh,
But there's a common thread I've noticed with pretty much most extremist ideology,
yeah.
and it's a weird loop to kind of close for people in it, I think, because often it's just like descriptive, um, but not functional. Like the case for whatever extreme, it's usually a description. It may not be an accurate description, but it's just full of description.
Right.
And rarely does it actually have a map to get anywhere from it.
Well, a lot of times, especially in the narrative of oppression,
Yeah.
from the oppressor,
Yeah.
uh, they will play the victim even though they're the oppressor.
Always.
You
Yeah.
see that where they're like, look at all these problems that this group of people have caused, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but that's not a solution. That is a narrative you're buying into, but it doesn't
Yeah.
do anything other than spread hate and possibly give you some power with the people that you are convincing to hate that group.
Yeah, and it's tough
That's like the
because
solution.
quite often you'll just say, okay, like so then you get your system, your crazy thing, with those guys, like quite often it's like their crazy idea of where they want society, and you're like, you get there, does like all these 20 things you brought up as a problem, like did those disappear? And they're like, no. And you're like, well then what's the purpose of this crazy ideology?
I just
Like,
want to hate people.
yeah. But I think it's important, like this is another reason I like getting in some verbal conflicts that I think is actually healthy. And also one of the reasons I like listening to debate. It reminds me of how fallible I am as well, because if I like watch, some extremist like kind of make their case that I totally disagree with, I might start noticing a pattern in what they're saying that might match some stuff I've said or some justifications I've made for like bad thoughts.
Yeah.
And so it's like it helps me recognize within myself like some of my weaker instincts and kind of it's almost like learning history, sort of like where it, in theory, the benefit of learning history is you can kind of see the mistakes of the past and try to avoid them.
Right.
Or do better, and similarly, like I definitely find that to be really beneficial, where I'm like, I need to learn from that and not do that thing,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and you might be more introspective than most when it comes to that type of thing.
I think a lot of well, I mean,
I don't think a lot of people look at somebody that they disagree with strongly and think, oh, they're like me, and
yeah,
I'm gonna make these changes.
no, that is true, and I do think that is one thing I really try to avoid is like assumptions about someone because they maybe have a differing view. I usually try to get it from the horse's mouth, and then again can be really disappointed if they just sort of match an assumption I went out of my way to not make.
Right. Like, I don't want to assume X, Y, and Z, and then they come out and say X, Y, and Z. Dang it.
You're like, oh my gosh, okay, you actually are like what I should have assumed, probably, or whatever.
Really trying to give you the benefit of the doubt there, but you don't want to.
So I don't know, it's an interesting thing, but I have to say I really think your approach to rhetoric and conversations is I think you will change more minds. I think I will anger more minds.
I don't know. Oftentimes I feel like it's kind of a coward's way out.
I don't know if it's cowardly though, because I've crossed swords with you before, you know, and like we've had some discussions that got a little hot, not angry, I don't think, but
Right.
you know, and you've definitely spoken up when there's something you don't agree with, you know,
Yeah,
and made your case, you know.
I'm able to do that. I don't enjoy doing it. I would rather not.
Yeah, I've felt bad sometimes when we've had discussions because I kind of you and I like exchanging ideas, and sometimes I'll sort of forget that like you're not as into the
Debate.
verbal conflict as I am. So
Yeah.
where I'm like, oh cool, we're actually getting into it. I'm gonna find out some stuff. You're like, oh great, you know. So
But really, it's when you're like, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, and I'm like, why? Just tell me what you think. Because
well,
devil's
it's
advocate is just more of like, I'm going to see if I can poke holes in your thing, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure.
yeah, it's hard though. But that does help me figure things out because like yeah, I that's another character thing I could work on. If I see a real logical hole, I have so much trouble just passing it, being like, okay, you know.
Yeah. What's interesting is I've noticed that in our most recent one with the NFTs, I was thinking of that. I'm like, why was that so frustrating to me? And it reminded me of the time I was trying to explain my position on, and I forget it now, but it's the protection. It's the publisher protection. Is it 302 or 320? It's the publisher protection that social media platforms get online.
Yeah,
Um, and in both of those instances, I felt like I explained the nuance of the situation that I was trying to go for, and then you would jump to an extreme and was like, "So you're saying this?" I'm like, "No." And each time I'm like, "Am I not clearly communicating what I'm trying to say here?" And that's where I get frustrated. Is like, is he thinking of the next like debate tactic that he's going to use and not hearing the rest of my sentence, or am I thinking that I'm more clear than I actually am, and I'm actually being kind of unclear? And that kind of like vague nature of like, how did that go down is frustrating for me.
yeah, and I will say like I at least I am like approaching those conversations with you in good faith because
Yes.
I don't view you as a person that I need to be tactical with.
Right.
Um,
I'm not saying that you are.
no, but I can understand how that would feel that way because it's like I definitely do get kind of again like it's just like if I see a hole and it's not that it's even a hole like maybe I just think it's a hole, you know, like
Yeah.
it's just hard for me to process it without verbally kind of working through it because I'm like okay wait how does this work, you know.
Yeah.
um, it's interesting because I have developed some pretty strong points of view from that tactic of conversation, whether it's beneficial or not. I
Right.
didn't even know anything about gold standard stuff um, till I really got into it with some friends that are libertarians.
Right.
And I didn't read anything on like criticisms of it. I would just have conversations, and it was like, okay, there's some problems here, you know. Like,
Right.
I'm not saying they can't be worked out, but it's like very quickly and within like 10 minutes of just asking a few natural questions you get to like okay the issue of counterfeiting. And then the funny thing is people I know who are really into the gold standard have lent me books and it turns out like half the book will be like why counterfeiting isn't an issue. So it's like it is enough of an issue to where people who are libertarians and for the gold standard have written entire novels
Right.
trying to counter one of the big points against it. And yet and that'll come up just by just naturally asking a question rather than like so for me it's tough because I've benefited from that. I'm not saying that's a great benefit, but it helped me clarify why I can't like what the block is that makes me go like, oh, I'm not like 100% like woohoo on this, you know.
Right.
Um, but I can see where that would be really frustrating. And especially on the NFT conversation where half of our back and forth was also me trying to figure out what they are and like, specifics about it. And I learned a lot from it because even thinking back, I'm like, I didn't realize it was something you couldn't update or edit. And to me, that's the biggest problem with them. It's like the strength of it is actually its weakness.
Right. The one thing that it does really well.
Yeah, it could be a real problem.
Yeah. But I mean, that one thing that it does really well causes most of the issues, because most of the problems that I have with it are, I feel myself going down this road and I'm not interested.
You don't have to.
Most of the issues that I have with it are actually people trying to get around that one strength and trying to make sure that it doesn't turn into a weakness. It's like this is what it does, and that could cause the following 15 problems. So I'm going to do this kind of like workaround thing to try to whatever. And it's just like, oh, maybe just don't try to make it do stuff that it doesn't do well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and it seems like a real beneficial technology too, like if used in the right way. But I don't know if it's great for currency.
Well, yeah.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna wash my hands real quick. Actually, it might be a good time to wrap.
I just finished the one painting. I'm gonna jump onto another one. So if you want to stick around, I'm down. If not, I will throw on an audiobook and keep going.
Well, from a conversation my wife had with me, I need to be going to bed around 2. And it wasn't like she doesn't set arbitrary standards, but she was just saying that's a pretty practical place to go to sleep if you have to work in the morning. And I was like, yeah, that's a fair point. So again, I can pray hang till.
You're saying you have an hour, or you want to wrap now?
The beauty of this is I just finished a page, so why wouldn't I want to get a little further? Yeah, I'll hang for a little longer. I'm enjoying the conversation too.
And I don't want to keep you up longer than you got, so.
No. I can roll for another hour, but I have to have a hard out at 2. So that's just the catch. So even if we get really into like a deeply interesting conversation, I'll just have to cut it.
Let's do a hard out before 2.
Sounds good.
So you have time to actually get to bed.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I like it. So let's say like 1:40. If it's 1:40, that's close at time.
So if we're in the middle of a sentence at 1:40, just know that that's why the stream ended.
Philip was saying, I want to keep listening, but I really need to hit the sack. Well, thanks for hanging out there, man. And I do hope you figure out like the way you want to stream, and let us know when you're streaming again. Maybe we can do some cross-platform stuff, because I do want to start doing that. I went on Adam's stream. I've hopped on Corey's, but I'd like to get like more of our community kind of popping on each other's streams. So anyhow, but yes, you said it's almost 4 a.m., so that would be a good time to call it. Okay, I'm gonna wash my hands. I'll be right back. Corey, for people who are just tuning in, because I think we have a few viewers, let them know where they can check out your stuff and all that fun stuff.
Good. So yeah, you can find my stuff at CoreyKerr.com. I'm trying to find where's the stream. I have too many windows open right now. Anyway, you can find my stuff at CoreyKerr.com. I've got a T-shirt up. And if you're interested in animations and comics and illustrations that kind of I don't want to say poke holes, but raise questions about some of the systems that are causing some issues today, go check out the animations and illustrations tabs on my website. And if you want to see what I'm working on, you can follow me on Instagram and YouTube and Twitter and blah blah blah. I'm gonna. Did we, Philip? Did you? I don't know if you're still around, but did you mention whether you prefer the full screen artwork or whether you prefer this widescreen thing? Let me see. Yeah, I don't think you mentioned it. Let me try to look back. Ugh. All right. So I am going to also remove all this. And then start a new one. These two as well. And this guy. That. So partner. Oh, I think I'm going to do this one easy and just do ink and flat colors because I need to get it done. I want to make sure that the snake, different layers. So let's see how to do that.
All right. The downside, my favorite part of a page, because I've finished this page. I'll just scroll through it. My favorite part I can't do till tomorrow on this page.
Which is what?
The erasing.
Oh, right. That's your favorite part?
Well, it's kind of like an addictive thing. Like when I was in illustration and majoring in illustration, we do illustrations on illustration board, like Crescent illustration board,
right?
And you'd use drafting tape, like around the edges,
right?
And so you'd do a painting, and it would be all over the drafting tape, and you knew, especially because a lot of the early projects in those classes were in gouache. So it's like you knew when you pulled that tape off, you'd have this like perfect border.
Uh-huh.
And so there's just like this beautiful moment when I was working on those illustrations where I'd get to peel the tape, and it was like the final part, you know? It's fun. Like that kind of appeal where it's like, oh, okay, now I'm finished, right? It's just like a nice moment. But I've broken, like, much like the peeling the tape, you have to wait for the paint to dry. Similarly with this, I have to wait for the ink to dry. And I have to relearn that lesson like once a year by like coming in a little too early and then having ink smudge all over the place.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to roll my back out real quick, and then I'll be right back.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Philip was saying about our layout. I like what you've got now. The background makes it a little bit busy, but I like the setup. So I was asking him whether he preferred. So you guys tell me whether you prefer something like this, where the artwork is a little bit bigger, but the edges get cropped out, or something like this, where you can basically see full screen on both of those stuff.
I could just make the background black. That might make it better. Because it might just be that the background's busy. Or should we use our colorful background that you were messing with, Corey?
Oh, I hate a lot of those gradient things that are really popular nowadays.
Yeah.
Like this. I hate it when the gradients cross the color wheel too far.
Yeah.
It just drives me nuts. But that's just
I have to say, I'm running out of penciled pages too. I have like 2 more, and then I have to go back to penciling. Arg.
Oh, that's cool. How many? I'm gonna be down on the ground. I'm still listening, but how many did you do in a row?
I don't know. I'm going by scene, so I can't remember. But I'll let you know in a second. I hate to leave the stream dead for 2 seconds, but I have to grab a new folding clean sheet. This is how I recycle my sheets. So I was using this as first like a shield, then a line test sheet. Now I have my new line test sheet, and I have to get a clean sheet for under my hand so I don't smudge up the page. I'll be right back shortly. Yeah. And if you're watching, feel free to hop in the chats and say hi. All right. Let's see here.
Okay.
I literally
I've already met my quota, and I still have another 3 or 4 hours, so that's kind of nice.
Hell yeah, dude. Nicely done. You made it. I'm gonna change that background to just black. I think that might be the better.
Yeah, if you just click on the one that's highlighted, I think it'll just remove everything.
Yeah.
You could probably design something that I like the panels along the top.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think what I'll do is come up with like a muted background, maybe with a bunch of panels, but they'll be like kind of faded over black, and then that might work better.
Right. All right. I'm gonna choose a brush for this. I'm trying to decide.
Maybe it can have like a super chat count on there. Like once I figure out whatever the incentive is, that's something I need to think about. Like I want some kind of incentive that people can build to with super chats.
Right.
I don't know what, and I know it would have to be fair. Otherwise, I would just make it some arbitrary incentive, you know?
Yeah. I don't think I want a textured edge. That dry brush looks cool though. Some of these brushes, man.
Yeah.
How does that look when I color underneath it? Let's go layer under. Give me color. Oh, so it does just do. I think I'm okay with that. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. All right, so here, and because of doing this, I'm gonna add this to my.
I am enjoying the way I've been breaking up the workflow on this, though.
Yeah.
It's much more organic. And the batching, I think, does work really well.
Dude, I love batching.
Because, yeah, like, I'm still getting kind of breaks, but I'm doing it by scene. So I'm like thinking like, okay, if it's a totally like pretty much like almost like by chapter, you know? And so it's got like a nice flow to it as like a workflow. So I think if I take this approach with the not death but love, I'm going to knock that out pretty well.
Is that the one you're doing with your sister? I'm familiar with the name of that one. I know you mentioned it, but is that the?
Yeah, it's the story about the Brownings, and
I'm so excited about that one.
Yeah, I'm really stoked. I'm kind of excited about working with West Margin too. They're really cool. They seem like cool publishers. I feel like I must be doing something okay here because I had my editor for Jacob's Apartment reach out and ask if she could share my pitch with a young cartoonist that she's mentoring.
That's cool.
And she said it's a really good example of a pitch by an artist who's still growing their catalog, but is definitely going to be getting a ton of book deals. And I was like, oh. That's a good thing to hear from my editor. You know, like
that's not a bad little thing. Yeah, that's cool.
So it was like a flattering and cool thing, especially coming from her because I really respect her. I believe that she's been getting on a lot of best of books and stuff, like lists and stuff for books she's edited. So it's like very flattering, but
that's cool.
Encouraging, you know, because there is that imposter syndrome we all feel. And I will tell you, man, these deals have not made me feel any less imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome is not built on logic, so.
Yeah, and it actually kind of escalates. Like it's like actually the more success you have in art, like the more you kind of feel it.
Yeah.
And then the weird thing is some of it's not like totally irrational because like start seeing how big this ocean of art is, and how much, like, Mo Willems is a good example. I see Mo Willems out there. I'm like, why would I get a publishing deal? Like,
That guy exists.
he knocks out books and they're great, and they're probably a lot quicker, but they're brilliant. Like.
Yeah.
Bought a heck of a lot more Mo Willems books for my kid than I've bought like Daniel Klaus books for myself. So, children's book idea though, I think would be good. Like, do the band drama stuff.
That's a fun idea, man.
Yeah, the premise would be like guitar saved my life kind of thing,
Yeah, right.
And it'd be like sort of like finding your own, basically as a nerd, figuring out what's cool.
Yeah.
And then learning how to work with people. Because, like, band dynamics definitely force, like, some family drama,
Uh-huh.
So it'd almost be like Almost Famous, but for kids.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Almost Famous is one of my favorite movies of all time.
What is it?
It is a Cameron Crowe film.
Yeah.
And it is semi-autobiographical about when he was a rock journalist as a teenager.
Oh, interesting.
And like a very young teenager, kind of faking his way, saying he was older than he was, into like massive rock concerts. And it's based really heavily on Cameron Crowe's experience writing for Cream magazine and Rolling Stone. And it has the best Philip Seymour Hoffman role that I've ever seen.
That's cool.
And it's good. It's just a really good movie. Heart-wrenching. It's a Cameron Crowe film, so.
I don't know if I'm super familiar with his work.
Jerry Maguire is probably the one he's most known for. He did Say Anything, which is another one of my favorite movies. He did a movie with Tom Cruise that I'm blanking out on. That was like a dystopian one.
The Die Another Day, or the one, what's that? Another Tomorrow, or the one where he resets all the time?
No. Was it Minority? Did he do Minority? No, he didn't do Minority Report. I can't remember. It'll come to me at some point. But yeah, Cameron Crowe also did Singles. I don't know if you ever saw that movie. It's like a 1990s movie.
I have like a very specific desire in movies, and it's usually not. It's usually just like bombastic, escapist is what I'm kind of going for.
Yeah. These are just like really heartfelt movies that are really corny, but are really well written.
Yeah.
It's funny, my sister-in-law hadn't seen Say Anything, and I was like, how have you not seen Say Anything? So I was like, if you see Say Anything, you'll understand why everybody loves John Cusack.
That's the one where he has the
boombox.
Boombox over his head, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyhow, Almost Famous is great though. It's like it's very funny, but also very like heartfelt and sweet.
Dude, I think I found a new brush that I just really like.
Ladies and gentlemen, Corey has found a new brush.
Yeah, it's those of you that might not do digital art often might think that is not something to get excited about, but I'm pretty dang excited.
A new brush is fun. I think it's a cool thing because like having a template for experiment like you have right now.
Yeah.
That's going to lead to some really cool stuff because you're finding new tools.
Yeah, it's fun.
Or old tools, but just tools you may not have used,
Yeah.
There's an importance to play in art.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
I'm excited about that with the Not Death But Love book. Like, I think once I get into that style, it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm excited for you to do a different style as well for the same reason. I just think it'll be a nice break. I mean, you've done incredible things with 2 stories, but also it's like the same style.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 styles. Um, but it's got to be fun to just be like, I'm going to do something completely different and faster.
Yeah.
That's going to be cool.
It's crazy too, because I feel like I'm hoping I'll like kind of unlock something, because
Yeah.
I definitely feel like doing this more meticulous style. Once I can, I don't know, it'll be interesting to kind of switch gears and see if that has an impact.
Mm-hmm.
That is the irony, though. It's like you do get faster, but then you get kind of pickier, and so it's sort of weird. Like the time frames for at least 2 stories in Jacobs are like fairly similar for like the execution.
Yeah.
But it's weird because it's like if I were to do Jacobs now, I could probably do it twice as fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's very strange.
Yeah, that's cool.
Although that one was pretty ambitious because it was full color. That's a little nuts to be like, this is my first graphic novel. I'm going to do full color.
Right. Yeah, I did that and then didn't finish it. I would have though. Life kind of got in the way of that one for me.
That happens.
Yeah, I had to. There was one of those like, you can finish this comic, or you can get a master's degree to keep your job and continue to provide for your family. It's like, well, as much as I love this comic, where's I don't know that I didn't throw it away.
Yeah, there's an importance to that order of priority list, you know?
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, this is a fun. What is this brush called? It's the
Fun brush.
Bad A brush KTW. That's fun. Kyle's ink box. It's in the mega pack in Photoshop if I'm using shit. It's kind of like a dry Sharpie.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
we
excited.
have background music now.
What's up?
There's background music now.
There is?
I'm gonna play the thing called "Feeding the Ducks."
Wait, background music on?
It's
StreamYard?
in StreamYard. You got acoustic cinematic.
Where?
I'm on the brand tab. Dance pop. So scroll down to the
what's
bottom.
lo-fi? All right, let's keep that on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have some generic music going.
I don't know how much I can take generic music.
That's kind of cool, though. I mean, I don't know how much I can take it either. I think lo-fi is a little much.
Yeah,
Let's check out Night Driving.
Elephant.
Interesting.
All right, elephant's done. Who's next?
I'm a little shocked by the music. You guys out there in the world, let us know your thoughts on this. The music. It really seems generic.
Yeah, it's very elevator.
We're going to the top floor of the elevator, you guys. Not level 1. We're not going to level 2. We're going all the way to level 50 of this building, ladies and
What I
gentlemen.
really need is I need Jim Lujan playlist You ever just
Yeah,
turn to stuff on Spotify? You can zone out to that. And then every once in a while, you're like, what was that lyric?
you know what's great though, because I was just joking about this the other day. Is one of these like really cinematic? Oh, acoustic cinematic. Because I was getting kind of corny when I was talking to somebody and I was saying how cool it would be if I could just have like swelling um, orchestra like come in.
Right.
So I could be like, Corey, you know, you're a really good friend. Our friendship has meant the world to me. And I think you're a very talented artist. And then the music stops. It's like, anytime you're going to get uncomfortably kind to people, just pop on that music.
Okay, I've got a question. Are you familiar with the movie The Boy Who Could Fly?
No.
It's like a 80s feel-good movie.
I'm also behind on Mandalorian, which I'm not Mandalorian, Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
I'm 2 episodes behind. This is how much I love my wife. I got about 10 minutes into the second to latest episode, and I was like, I can't watch this without my wife because she's a Star Wars nerd.
Okay, Sir John says, I have a new bit. What if Wolverine was a rapper? That verse stung, bub, but I've already recovered. I'll call you tomorrow morning if I need my toast buttered. There you go.
All right, Sir John. That's cool. Wolverine, huh?
Yeah.
I could see that.
The healing factor in a rap.
So, I mean, if he'd be Weapon X, I mean, he wouldn't go by Wolverine, right?
So there's a thing. Did he choose the name Wolverine in the comics?
That's a good question. I think he's Logan. So,
right. Well, I mean, that's his name.
Yeah, that's a good question. Did Cyclops decide to be called Cyclops? Did Rogue name herself? Like, where are these names coming from? Was it just Professor X being like super control freak about it? He's like, guess what? Your name is Wolverine. And he's like, but I'm Logan. Nope, Wolverine. And then the weird thing is
several more scenes with this brush because it's so loose and dry that like I'm just not being precious about it. It is really fun.
Yeah, that's what she said. Oh my
no
goodness.
way that loose and dry is a good situation in that comic.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like the best, the best, most appealing thing there. If we're talking analogies, yeah, dude, that's a really good question. Now I'm really wondering because it's not like the X-Men like really had like secret identities,
right?
I mean, they had their faces out for like everyone to see, pretty much, right?
Well, I mean, that was the point, was that they were mutants that couldn't hide from who they were and were ostracized for it. So yeah,
if anyone out there is an X-Men expert, or maybe
I would like to know if Sir John or whoever else is watching here, if you guys know the answer, that would be good. Did they pick their own names? Were they names assigned to them? I know what they did in the movies, but as a kid, they were just always their name.
Yeah.
So I never like dove in and figured out like, is that something that they chose or not?
But I do feel like if Wolverine's going to be a rapper, he's going to go by Weapon X. You know what I mean? That's just a way more rapper kind of name, Yeah. But I like the idea of him using his self-regenerating thing like as like a diss in a hip-hop song. That's a pretty good bit, Sir John.
All right.
I think, Sir John, you need to do just a straight-up X-Men hip-hop album.
Dude, that would go well on Spotify. I've got students who do niche stuff like that, and the trick is you get onto playlists, that are kind of generically named that people will listen to, and you can start making some decent money. I had one student make like a couple grand off of a Minecraft rap that he did.
All right, Corey, you and I, we need to do a rap album.
I don't think I have interests that most people care about. I would just be rapping about this brush right now.
I think you'd be rapping about like the future dystopia.
Yeah.
And like halfway through the rap, like the robots would take over.
It just turns into an auto-tuned nightmare.
There's a man, I really dig Kendrick Lamar a lot. I think what he's doing is just like I think he's doing some of the most brilliant stuff in hip hop right now.
I'm not super familiar with a lot of hip hop.
But I remember on Good Kid, Mad City, he did this thing that I hadn't really heard done in hip hop, where as he's rapping, he kind of played with like the speed of the recording, and so he like slow, but it also goes with the cadence of the way he's kind of like rhyming. So it starts like really slow and then like gets all accelerated and sped up, but then it keeps speeding up and slowing down while he's going. It's just I don't know, it's pretty amazing. Kind of he does a lot of really interesting stuff, but it's very much not safe for work kind of hip hop, but
yeah,
very profound stuff.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think, if you hadn't heard his stuff, I'd say like Good Kid, Mad City is a good start.
Okay.
And don't listen to it around your kids.
Okay.
But it'll throw you off at first too. If it does what it did for me, you got to give it the whole album's listen, and then you'll be like,
I don't know, man. Stuff like that, it's like it's hard. Whenever somebody's like, "Listen, you really got to commit." I just did that with this thing, this show, and it was like not a great start. But then I was like, "Yeah, I'm just kind of like sort of paying attention."
Yeah.
So I watched the next 2 or 3 episodes while I was drawing, and it got okay. Like they started raising some interesting questions, and boy, it was like this little mini series on Netflix. It ended in the dumbest way, and I was just like, "Well, that was a giant waste of time." Sometimes you should just stick to your instincts and not fight through the first part of it.
I agree, but Lamar is like, at least that album, it's like it's one of those albums. It's an album. It's not a song, you know.
Right.
And if you heard a single from the album, you'd think it was something different. That's kind of the brilliance of it, because like he plays characters.
Oh, interesting.
So it's like there's a song that sounds kind of like a crunk, like drinking song, but then you get to that point in the album and you realize it's him being a character that's singing that song. Like it's just really just, it's massively brilliant. Like I really do think he's pretty amazing.
Interesting.
But I guess I'm not alone on that. I think the guy's like gonna be do you do the Super Bowl stuff? Do you watch the Super Bowl?
When I was in advertising, I would watch it because you kind of need to do that to be relevant.
Yeah, when is the Super Bowl? I don't even know.
I just saw a New Yorker cartoon that said, "I can't believe it's that time that I'm vaguely aware that the Super Bowl exists again." That's more accurate to like how aware I am of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, me too. But I feel like it's somewhere around now. One of the only reasons is I think Kendrick Lamar will be at that or something. But you've heard Kendrick Lamar if you've seen Black Panther.
Oh, okay, cool.
I think he did the soundtrack.
I don't unless there's something really weird or really moving, soundtracks kind of blend for me into the background.
Yeah, same here.
But the reason I brought up The Boy Who Could Fly is because...
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I totally took you off that topic.
I probably was the one that changed the subject. But the reason why I brought it up is like there is a part where like they fly this kite, and that's it. That's what happens. This kite starts flying, and but this like cinematic, like, hugely inspiring score came in, and it was such a disjunction from not disjunction, but it's such a mismatch from what was actually happening. I was like, man, they're really trying to sell the importance of this kite flying. It was funny.
So it was kind of like equivalent to let me see if I can get this going again. Let's see. Oh, I just have to find where it is again. Is it under brand? Yeah. Okay, so it's like, okay, and now we're drawing. This is supposed to be a very special moment, you guys. There's music that's supposed to get you all excited about our amazing stream here.
This is super repetitive.
Do you feel like if you just did this and then just said like really inspiring stuff that like these streams would get like massively higher views?
I do feel like there are certain generations out there right now that are really impressed with the dumbest crap. So yes.
Yeah. Because I feel like, Corey, this is probably the most important thing for artists out there to hear. It's that you can do it. Anyone can draw.
Oh man. It's like, is it the same 2 bars over and over again? That is the shortest loop.
You have to get in the zone, Corey, just like in art, how everyone has their own special cadence and song and value. And if you guys are out there drawing, you're important. And you can draw, and don't let anyone tell you you can't. How do you like the stream? Should we change up and do that?
I think I'm gonna log off.
Wait. I want you to like we gotta speak in like what's it called?
Platitudes?
Yes, platitudes. I was always bummed. I did a design a long time ago that said something like platitudes look great on t-shirts with eagles or something. And I was always bummed that didn't do well because I thought it was really funny. Because much like eagles, your art can soar.
So bad.
I'm kidding.
What is that one called?
That one's called acoustic cinematic.
Oh, it's
ladies. Awesome. You know what's funny? I don't know if this had anything to do with it, but I did notice like a few people like reviewing when we had the music, and then the second it turned off, they disappeared.
I think they left, and then you turned it off right after that.
Is that the secret super hack to getting like mass views on YouTube?
Yeah, that's what it is.
I could see though, like if I were doing a stream and like nobody was on and I was kind of out of things to talk about. The problem is, Corey, can you envision a world where I ever shut up?
I have a student who I really like, who's really good at stuff and very productive, and he's very skilled. But I asked him, I was like, hey, what music are you listening to? And he literally was like, oh, I don't like any bands or any musicians or anything. What I really like is those like 15-hour long YouTube streams where it's just like lo-fi study music. And so I tried it, and I was like, this is mind numbing. Like how I had a whole new view of him after that, and not a good one. It's like, oh, dude, I don't know. That's something.
I don't know. I think I'm gonna figure out the magic formula with these new you know what's funny? Wouldn't it be funny if they actually put those songs on there, but they're actually not royalty free, and it's just so they can monetize off of your videos? It's like they figured out a way to like get more money out of people.
Oh man, that would be
ingenious.
Really shady.
Ingenious.
All right.
All right, we got a good 8 minutes till it's just like time to kill and stop the stream.
Okay, this needs to be the best 8 minutes that we've ever done. Then
It's gonna be the best 8 minutes, you guys.
let's
And I
spend
will.
the entire time hyping up how great of an 8 minute segment it will be.
It's going to be such good 8 minutes that it's now 7 minutes. See how quickly that went? You just blinked and you didn't even realize it because it's like the best 8 minutes. It is more important 8 minutes than if you were like having your life flash before your eyes and it was the last 8 minutes you ever had. That's how important these 8 minutes are.
Okay, let me ask you this:
Mm-hmm.
how much of this type of stuff was big illustration party time with you and Kevin? Just being like
Goofy,
really dumb, and then running with it.
Oh, BIPT was built on that. I mean, Kevin and I would get a dumb idea and we would pursue it all the way to the end. So there's like actual episodes where, like, at one point we were just saying, like, we're going to do news on the march. And then we were like, oh, that would be hilarious. We should totally do a bit where we do a whole section where we have our news section sound like a World War II propaganda piece. And then because it's Kevin and me, we couldn't just do that. Like we'd actually edit it so you hear like airplanes in the background and you hear like a marching band and
Yeah.
I don't know. So we did so many bits. We did a crossover with Art and Story. This is before Kevin was on Art and Story, where we actually had a musical that crossed between our two podcasts. And it was like a country jamboree. We
That's awesome.
I think that's part of why it did well because we spent a long time editing those,
Yeah. I mean, when you and I, every time we're like, oh, we got this great idea, whenever it came down to like that great idea needed a ton of editing for it to work well, we both would fall apart.
Yeah, and I think it's like it kind of worked when I was like freelance, but like nowadays, I don't have the fortitude to invest the time.
Well, and also, like you could, as a freelancer, you could do something like that as a break. Like I'm gonna take a break and still stay.
Yeah.
But like when it's just like your day job, it's like, well, I don't have time for a break because my break is a commute or making a sandwich so I can not starve to death.
Yeah, and it's also just having a ton more stuff on the dock.
Yeah.
Frank just hopped on. Frank, I'd have you on, but
Frank, man, you just missed the best 8 minutes that has ever happened on this show.
It's true. Right now, you're experiencing the best 5. This will be the best 5 minutes you have ever experienced. So Frank said, I was working on page 5 and 6 of the mech story. Oh my goodness.
Cool.
Corey, how do you feel about being a mech character?
I think it's hilarious.
I think it's hilarious too.
I'll tell you, I'm going to be in one of Frank's comics, which is going to be awesome. And then Gary had me do a bunch of reference poses for him for the next, why am I blanking? Marsbots, Dinosaurs versus Marsbots comic that he's doing.
Epic.
Yeah, so my new goal is just to be in other people's comics as much as possible.
Nice. Ronnie is going to have me be a murder victim, I think, in one of his horror comics. And I'm excited about it, but I feel bad because I still haven't taken photos. So if Ronnie, if you're watching this after the fact, just know that I will be taking those this weekend.
Dude, did you see Frank just sent me his pages, and you are in this as well.
Is this true?
You're the doctor that is going to amputate something.
Oh, that's awesome. That's perfect.
I'm not reading it. I think you cut off all my arms and legs in this comic.
Okay, so I'm like the nurse lady in Dogman, basically.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'll have to read that when I'm not in the middle of a flow.
That's cool. And a lot of people don't realize that's actually autobiographical. So
I am.
That Frank is actually working on a book from 2 stories. That's book 3. where I amputated all of Corey's limbs off. I don't know if you guys realize this, but Corey is actually a robot. Corey, sorry to vent that, and I know it's. I told you guys this was going to be the best 10 minutes. You guys are now going to find out about Corey really being like half man, half machine. Sorry, Corey. I had to tell them. I had to tell them the truth.
Yeah, that's the irony. Is all of my anti-tech stuff is really self-hating.
It's a ruse to try to kind of keep people. It's like the magician kind of being like, you know, I'm doing a trick right here, but really it's here that the trick is.
Yeah. The one that tells you.
Mm-hmm. So he's the villain who's telling you exactly how it's going to go down, and has earned your trust because he's so sincere about it. No, I'm just kidding. Or am I?
Yeah.
I want to see.
What if I really was just here from the AI to like throw everybody off?
That would be amazing. Oh my goodness. I'm a pretty rad doctor there. That's cool.
Yeah.
Kind of digging it. Okay, I'm going to have to read this at another time, but that's...
Okay, you've got 1 minute. Make it the best minute that has ever happened on this show.
All right, you guys.
Or else.
It's hard to top the last minute. It just, you know, the big reveal that Corey is really a robot sent to destroy the world. Yeah. I'm trying to think, how do we top that, Corey?
I don't know.
I mean, I guess maybe we should, you know, just kind of bring up the fact that there still are unanswered questions about Tarako and what happened to Frank. You know,
I think he's the Scranton Strangler.
Do you think Frank is a robot too?
It could be. He doesn't seem to sleep. Anytime anybody streams any time of day, he's able to be there. He's either cybernetic of some kind or several people.
Do you think it's like Frank knows that you're a robot and Frank was sent from the future to stop you from taking over the world?
That is possible.
I could kind of see that, like a Terminator 2 kind of scenario, you know? Yeah. All right, guys. That's it for the stream. We have hit the most epic 10 minutes ever known. Frank said cyber clones in the chats. Frank, we would have had you on, but we only had 5 minutes. So, yeah. But next stream. Yeah, I think that's it. Make sure you buy comics. And if you're buying comics, buy 2 stories and, you know, pre-order Jacob's Apartment. Corey, where should people go check out your stuff?
Yeah, so my name's on the screen. Put a .com after that, CoreyKerr.com. And you can get some T-shirts for sale and some animations to watch for free and stuff like that. And you can follow me on Instagram if you want to see me experimenting with a bunch of different styles of things recently. There's quite a few of those up, so you can check those out. And
I love it.
Yeah, other than that, I'll see you the next time we decide to talk instead of listen to an audiobook.
I love it. And I don't know, Corey, we do have to figure out something. Like maybe we'll do a little crossover YouTube video or something when we're up there.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be fun.
All right, you guys, have a good night. Go forth, make lots of comics, and not war. Just make comics instead of war, you guys. Give comics a chance. All right. Oh, wait a second. Just to lead us out.
Jeez. Regretting showing you where this was.
All right, you guys. And that'll do it for our stream. I'm Joshua Kemble. And my co-host,
Oh, was I supposed to jump in instead of just laughing?
Yeah, you got to be the AM radio host.
I'm Corey German.
That's right, Corey. And we're the AM Junkies. It's 1:42 in the morning, and we're going to call it a night. Goodbye, guys. Keep it cool.
Oh, that song took a while to pick up. There it is.